All right, everybody, let's wrap this message up. This is part 4 of the 4-part message series on the 4 reactions to the gospel, and let's jump right into it. At Matthew 13:23. And the one on whom seed was sown on the good soil, this is the man who hears the word and understands it, who indeed bears fruit and brings forth, some 100-fold, some 60, and some 30. What Jesus is saying here, this is the person who hears the gospel, they understand it, they didn't let Satan trick them, they haven't let the worries of the world choke out their desire to serve God, they haven't let persecution stomp them out. They've stood up, they've sought God, they've served Him, and they've shared Him, and they're bearing fruit. The vine and fruit, that type of imagery, is used all throughout the New Testament. And of course, something bearing fruit, especially in their context, because they were an agrarian society, was always viewed to be good. But what kind of fruit are we really talking about? And to get some insight on that, let's go to Paul's epistle to the Galatians. This is Galatians chapter 5, verses 22 and 23. And Paul's talking about the fruit of the Holy Spirit. So when someone hears the gospel and they receive Christ and thus receive the baptism in the Holy Spirit, what does that make them do? What do they get from that? Paul says the fruit of the Spirit is this. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. And he says, against such things there is no law. If you remember in the earlier message, we were talking about the things that the media tries to sell to people, that the advertising tries to sell to people, the ways by which they try to sell it, if something's going to make you sexier or richer. What if they were selling kindness, gentleness, and self-control, peace, patience, and kindness, and love? Well, they can't sell that because Jesus is giving it away for free. And the world's trying to choke it out, and the world's trying to burn it up. But some people eventually do bear that fruit. They're the good soil that gospel message is sown on. And they sought God. And you young people, this means you got to continue to seek God when your parents aren't around, when your network of support is not around. One day you're going to get out of your parents' house. One day you're going to get out of your high school youth group or your middle school youth group. One day you're going to get out of college. Maybe you go to the BSU or something like that all the time in college, or any other kind of Christian fellowship. One day you're going to get out of that. You might not have that network support. But there's a church somewhere that you can become a part of and go bear fruit at that church and serve there. And that's really firing on all cylinders when you hear the gospel and understand that. And you still seek God and His Word and what His will for your life is, even when you get out of, you're not under your parents' thumb anymore, I should say. And that's a bad context. When you're under somebody's thumb, they're making you do something. But sometimes there's a lot of kids in church who are under their parents' thumb, and that's why they go. And they're not necessarily the good soil. So again, I'm going to ask you to ask yourself, are you under somebody's thumb, or are you under the yoke of Jesus? And Jesus says, my yoke is easy. And going on to serving. You're serving God in your life. We've discussed that at length already. I won't go into it again. But glorify God properly in serving. Because this journey you're on, it's not yours, it's God's. Journeys are named for their leaders. Think of Cortez, or Lewis and Clark, or Vasco da Gama, Columbus, De Soto. All these men are famous for their journeys and their explorations and what they've done. And the journeys are named after them. Columbus had sailed the ocean. He was the one who went out and did it. Well, whose journey are you on? Are you on yours? Am I on Seth Dunn's journey, for example? No, be on God's. Let Jesus lead your journey. Be led by the Holy Spirit. Do God's will. That's the kind of people who the soil is. They're bearing much fruit. That's who it's talking about. And these people are sharing. When it says the 30 and the 60 and the 90 and the 100, the crop that they create, and it's exponential. They share with people, and the other people share about people. So who are you telling about God? Really ask yourself that. Who are you telling about God? And not in a general sense, like you meet someone who may be an atheist, and it's like, well, I'm an atheist. And you say, well, no, God made things. God this, God that. Who are you telling about God? Who are you telling about His Son? Who are you telling them about Jesus? What are you telling them about Jesus? This is all very important. You need to share Jesus, the love of Jesus, and the character of Jesus, and the divinity of Jesus, all of the gospel with people when you share about them. Otherwise, it's just fluffy clouds and everybody's happy. This idea of Jesus as let's emulate him. He was a great teacher. That's not the kind of Jesus you need to share. And that's not the Jesus the people who are the good soil are sharing. No, they're sharing the one eternal Son of the Holy God. And again, ask yourself, who have you told about God or Jesus lately? If you can't think of anybody, you're not bearing fruit, and this might not be talking about you. And where do we tell Jesus about Jesus, or how do we tell about Jesus? Look what Jesus says in Acts 1:8. You will receive power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you, and you shall be my witnesses both in Jerusalem and in Judea and Samaria, and even to the remotest part of the earth. And if you're a Baptist like me, you hear about Acts 1:8 all the time, and we talk about our Jerusalem, or that's our hometown. Are we sharing in our hometown? Because they're speaking Jerusalem. And then we hear about what is our Judea. Well, our Judea is our county or our city or our state. The sort of local, but not too far out, because Jerusalem was in Judea. And so what's our Samaria? Well, maybe that's our neighboring state. And what sticks out about Samaria is the people that Jesus is talking to don't like Samaritans. People from Samaria were looked down upon by people in Jerusalem and Judea. But even though they were their enemies or some looked down upon sect, they were supposed to go share with them. And think about the parable of the Good Samaritan. I won't go into that there to talk about Samaritans. Google it yourself. But the message is, even in Samaria, which was considered dirty and unclean by many, you're supposed to go share there. And then it says the remotest part of the earth. From Jerusalem all right to the ends of the earth, wherever it is. And this one really made me think, because most people aren't international missionaries. But I'll tell you this, get out your Google Earth, look where Jerusalem is, and then look where you are. I was born in Tennessee, and that's about as far from Jerusalem as you can get. So if I keep it in this first century context, if I said I'm here listening to this in Jerusalem, where's the remotest part of the earth? Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, United States? You're in the remotest part of the earth right now. You don't have to be a missionary in some far-flung place to be filling this or fulfilling this command to share in the remotest part of the earth. Because that's what's happened. The seed has been hitting in the good soil for years and years and multiplying and growing and growing. And the good soil has grown plants all the way across the whole earth, and there's still some places we haven't reached. But you could be one of those remote places. You are in one of those remote places. If you're far away from Jerusalem, that's where you are. So really consider that. And don't feel limited. Don't feel like, oh, well, I'm in a Bible Belt type place, or, oh, I'm in America, we're a Christian society. There's a lot of people where you are right now who've never heard the gospel. Don't let where you are stop you from doing it. People need to hear it here as much as they need to hear it in India or China or Afghanistan or wherever else. And here's an FYI, China has more Christians than anybody. So it's like their fruit's been growing a little more exponentially than ours here in America has, church. But that's another thought for another topic. And right now, if you're looking at your life, and if you're thinking what your life's going to be, and you realize, man, I'm not the seed that got sown in good soil. I'm some other kind of seed. I'm getting choked out. I'm getting burned up. You know any farmers who've only sowed one time in their entire lives? No, farmers sow every season. You're getting sowed at again right now by the Holy Spirit. Knock, knock, knock. Hey, I'm knocking. Listen to me. Convicting. That's what the Holy Spirit's saying. And if you're one of these other types of soil, sown among the thorns or sown among the weeds, or even if the birds were pecking at you before, don't think Jesus, who prunes the vine, the Father prunes the vine, don't think they can't just yank you up and plant you in the good soil. If you'll just pray and ask the Holy Spirit to help you, He'll do it. And I really hope you got something out of this message and this review of the 4 reactions to the gospel. And I really pray that your reaction has been the 4th one. And if your reaction has been the 4th one, I want to ask you to pray for the people you know in your life who've had one of the other 3 reactions and bring them to the good soil with you. Enjoy talking about this. I'm about to run my email address or my website up next in the credits. And if anybody would like to talk about this any further, please don't hesitate to contact me. I'm always willing to talk about this stuff. I love sharing the gospel and I love sharing Jesus. Thanks for watching.